Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Fall Armyworm chat and website tour. I'm Anna Heslop. I'm the comms manager here at FAR, and my role with the Fall Armyworm project is negligible. My job today is just to run this webinar. So the first thing I'm going to do is ask everybody, if they haven't already, to turn your microphones and cameras off. And if you want to ask questions, please type them in through the chat option. I'll be keeping an eye on the questions as they come through, and if it's appropriate to interrupt people and ask them on the spot, I'll do so. Otherwise, we'll save those questions and share them later. We are going to have several speakers today, and then there'll be sort of question time at the end where we'll go through some of those unanswered questions and any others that are coming up. We want to get this thing over and done with in 45 minutes, so that you can get on with your day. The first speaker is going to be Ash Mills from FAR, Arable Biosecurity and Industry Relationship Officer. I'm sure most of you know him. Then we also have Daniel Sutton from Vegetables NZ, Mark Dunham from Northland Seed and Supplies, and we've got some other people in the background, Mike Barley and Cody Ellingham, who helped with to develop the website, and some of the other Fall Armyworm project team members from, well, we're calling them the Bioeconomy Science Institute, but up till now they've been from Plant and Food or Ag Research. So they'll be there to answer some questions if anybody has them at the end as well. So without further ado, I'll hand over to Ash Mills, who's been involved with the Fall Armyworm incursion since day one. Actually, we think he set it up. He's currently leading the long-term management of Fall Armyworm SFFF project, which is co-funded by FAR, Vegetables New Zealand and Processed Vegetables, as you can see from the logos. Over to you, Ash.
Just flick to this screen, just a little bit more personal for my bit, but hi everyone, Ash Mills, as Anna said, I'll just share my screen, get into it. Cool. So you guys should all be able to see that. So kia ora, no? Yeah. You got that? Cool. Hi everyone, good to be here. So first of all, we're just going to get straight into it and tell you a little bit about the background, the rationale. I'm not going to go into too much detail there, but some of you will, well, most of you will probably know this, but for those who don't, Fall Armyworm, Spodoptera frugiperda, was first confirmed in New Zealand in early 2022, and it spread across the country. It was quite rapid in that first year. It was found in over 140 different locations, and that was spanning from all the way up in Kaitaia and further north, actually, in Northland, and all the way down to Haast on the west coast of the South Island. Pretty cold down there, maybe, but they do grow maize silage to support the dairy industry. So we do know that, unlike other caterpillars, Fall Armyworm has that wide host range. So it feeds on up to 350 plant species globally, and in New Zealand, we realised that the focus should really have a spotlight on maize and sweet corn. We do have a knowledge gap, and that's in the winter, and it is likely, though, that any of the C4 grasses could sustain it through to the next growing season. We have found that the window for no maize or sweet corn present is actually a lot smaller than we thought. Yeah, we do have maize volunteers that keep on going all the way into July, and we do have sweet corn back in the ground in a couple of different regions in mid to late August. So we are aware that Fall Armyworm has demonstrated this ability to migrate long distances. Obviously, it came across Trans-Tasman, pretty easy with the support of the wind that we have in New Zealand to move into regionally as well. We also know that throughout its travels around the world, it has developed some of those chemical controls. So from the outset, we did recognise that responding to Fall Armyworm in New Zealand would require that timely and coordinated communication, locally tailored information, and a strong emphasis on IPM, or integrated pest management, not just those chemical solutions. So you'll be aware that we're currently limited on the chemical options here anyway. So we have leaned on some of those international resources on fall armyworm. They are abundant, but they do often lack relevance to the New Zealand climate and the regulatory settings and the cropping systems that we have here. So much of that guidance available overseas is based on crops, products, and beneficial species that they just simply don't apply to us. So that's why we've created this website. It's really to serve as that central and trusted and practical resource for the New Zealand growers, agronomists, industry bodies, and researchers, etc. It is one of the outputs of the SFFF, the Sustainable Food and Fibres Futures project that we've got. So FAR leads that alongside Vegetables New Zealand and Processed Vegetables. And we're in collaboration with organisations like the BSI groups, PFR, Plant Food Research, sorry, and Ag Research. And also this has really been supported by Ag, Weather and Disease platform builders, Hawk Plus. So I'll just move on to the next slide there. So just those bullet points there. There are a few of our milestones or work streams, if you like, that this website will support and share with you to be able to use. I'm just going to click on, hopefully this works. Click on that link, and it is quite simply www.fallarmyworm.new Zealand. So nice and simple there for everyone. Just move the screen out of the way. Okay, so this is going to be a really short tour. It probably won't do it justice, and I can spend a couple of hours yarning about this. But I will try and resist going rogue and taking up all of your lunch. But please explore it. It also works really, really well on your phone. So if you are in the paddock, you can use that as that support tool. So as you open up, you'll get to that this page here, the home page. You'll see at the top we do have our funding partners up the top. They are linked, so do explore some of those organisations. So moving down, it does start with some quite simple links, maybe just to answer some quick questions and take you where you need to be, like you might just be here for a specific reason. Hopefully we've answered some of those there. And then moving down, like this homepage section, it really gives a real-time seasonal snapshot of the fall armyworm situation in New Zealand and as we go through the season. It does outline things like the stage the pest is likely to be at and the detections that have occurred. It gives summaries of maybe what's going on in the bigger picture of New Zealand, but also in that regional aspect as well. So again, we'll just move down a little bit there. So this section here, we've got new business. So this is where we're maybe just going to give a little bit of an update on published research findings, seasonal summaries and data as they become available. It might include some things like the pheromone tracking results, crop scouting results, natural enemy observations. And like I said, it will be a place to publish some outcomes and then we'll be able to have links throughout the rest of the website. So I'll keep on going down there, and you can see there that we have things like that. It's that summary I was mentioning. Again, you'll see the little date that's up on the left, so you can see when it's been updated. Try and keep it a little bit more current. And then we go down, and this is a lot more regional. Again, you'll see the date there when it's updated. You know, if something's not happening in the West Coast or in Canterbury, which is quite unlikely from what we've experienced so far until late in the season, I might not do too much in the way of updates, but you'll still be able to refer to that summary. Or if you have interest in those particular regions where we have found fall armyworm, you can keep in. Yeah, you can just keep abreast of everything there. So then just moving down even further, we then go on to the identification. So one of the biggest challenges that we had with fall armyworm is that early detection and people finding larvae in the paddock and what is it. So this section, first of all, if it's not that, then what is it? So you can click on links on the side. We will get to some of those other pages as we scroll down, but hopefully they'll answer some of your immediate questions there. But as we go further on down, you can see all the different life stages and the life cycles, some quite detailed photos, and all of these blue bars, you can click on those and they will pop up with some really good information. So what we're trying to do there is really describe the appearance of the larvae. They do change as they go through their life cycle, and they can be quite varied at certain times, but also the damage. It will hopefully just give you a little bit more of an insight in what you're observing. You might be able to piece it together, and it might be able to enable you to identify and find the larvae within the plant, or even in the ground if need be. If it's pupated, maybe you might be able to start digging under the plant and find something. So there is quite a lot of advice in that. There's a lot of detail. It's taken a little bit of work there to get it into a nice format. So thanks very much to Plant Food Research for your support with that one. They are definitely the experts and helped me summarize all of my big chunky waffle that I was presenting to them. So we'll keep on going down again. So again, lots and lots of photos and the information that's really relevant to identifying it. So we've gone down to monitoring your crop. You might just find one larvae and realize you could potentially have a problem. Maybe you don't, but here we're laying out step-by-step instructions on crop scouting. So these are grouped by the growth stage as well. When we get down to the economic thresholds, you'll see on the right-hand side there are those tabs that can navigate you to places you may want to go a bit quicker than what I'm showing you at the moment. Again, we're going down and showing some of the rationale and some of the methodology on the crop scouting, and just some pretty basic diagrams. When crops are small, early whirl, late whirl maybe, depending how tall you are, you can get across the paddock in quite nice patterns like that and really get a good picture of what's going on in your property. When they get a little bit taller, you might have to change the way that you do some crop scouting. But there's definitely a lot of guidance here, and a lot of information to support you. Again, some of the information about the pheromone trapping. Like the pheromone trapping is basically an indication. We're using it pre-crops going in the ground, and post-crops coming off of the paddock, just for a little bit of a snapshot either side of the crops as well. But there is really no substitute for getting into the paddock and doing things like destructive sampling and identifying your pests. So 5-10 minutes is not that big an investment if you think about it, to understand that threat, if there is one, and the level of threat, and this can save you so much in that long run.
I'm just going to cut in and ask a question. Can you define destructive sampling? So
destructive sampling, like if you can't visibly see the larvae on the leaves just by gently moving some of the leaf folds, you can just pull them apart. Just rip the plant to pieces, because they can be right in the whirl. They can be quite tricky to find. They could be in the cobs. Rip them apart. Do some sampling as you're going throughout the whole of the paddock, just because you will also identify some other pests, or maybe even some other diseases or some other issues that you might not have known that you had. So it is really good. You cannot do enough of that crop scouting. So again, just going to move down, and I think I'm running out of time already, so we'll skim through, but some really good diagrams there again to help you on your chemical control, if that is something that you need to do. At the bottom, there's some links to Corteva, so they've got some great resources. These are the economic thresholds that we're advising people to apply when they're doing their crop scouting. It's sometimes doing nothing is the right thing to do. Again, we do have some of these little fact sheets on those little tabs. You can print those off, present them to your growers, or if you are a grower, just have in the glove box just to remind yourself about what's going on. Keep on going through, and we'll keep on going down, and then we go into things like management. Some of those beneficial insects that we're learning about, something like Cartesia, maybe that's more of an important one, but we do have all these other ones supporting that environment in the maize and sweet corn. And again, down to the resistance management, a lot of information that we've put together here. Again, please explore all of those tabs and the chemistry that we have. you'll see that we don't have that much available to us at that moment. So really doing the crop scouting and understanding what's going on in your paddock is vital. We're linking more and more resources there. So please keep visiting, because it will, yeah, you will find that it is going to be continually evolving. And a couple of dirty mug shots at the bottom there if you do need to ask some questions, or please, if you have some feedback, that'll be fantastic. So I will just close this screen down and get back to this one. Yeah, so please, again, these are some of those key partners that have been part of this journey. You'll see them throughout the website. Click on the links. The picture there, you can't click on Jenny, but she's been really key for some of that day-to-day knowledge and observations that have been happening up in Northland. That's definitely where we think the epicenter is there. So yeah, so again, finally, a heap of acknowledgements. I've missed heaps of people there, but thank you to everybody that's got this journey going. Like I said, it's an evolving tool, so please keep visiting it and do give us feedback. Yeah, photo in the middle there. I will try and remember to get some video of my dog Bruce indicating full armyworm for you, but it does get distracted by weckers, so it might be more challenging than I think. But I hope this was useful. Please share it with your colleagues, with other growers. Link the website, give us feedback. You know, we're answering those stakeholders, to you, the stakeholders. So, like I said, it's an evolving tool. We want to answer your questions and answer your needs. So please let us know. Okay, enjoy the rest of the webinar. Thank you.
Thanks, Ash. So we are now going to hand over to Daniel Sutton, who's the Research Development and Extension Manager at Vegetables NZ, who, as you have just heard, is one of the SFFF partners in this project. So Daniel's going to talk to us about the fall armyworm incursion response management from that sweet corn perspective. Away you go, Dan.
Ash, were you going to share the slides? I'll try to share from my end. That's sharing the wrong slide, isn't it? Ash, we're going to share from your end. Yeah, there we go. So hello everyone. I was just going to give a little bit of a sweet corn perspective to this work. So everything that Ash has talked about in terms of that, you know, shared message and coordinated approach, looking to make information available to growers up and down the country, to provide those resources around monitoring, beneficial insects, control options. All of that is as relevant to sweet corn growers as it is to maize growers and the likes. You know, the crop's basically the same, the pest is obviously the same. So it was from a Vegetables New Zealand and processed vegetables point of view, that working together with FAR on this just made perfect sense. What I was going to do today is just give a little bit of an overview of, I guess, where the differences overlay in terms of maize and sweet corn, and it basically comes down to managing risk. So if we can just jump to the next slide there, Ash. So yeah, and I see basically, so the difference really between maize and whether it's maize silage or maize grain, compared to either a process or a fresh vegetable crop, is the product that we're producing at the end of it, and the consumers that we are hoping to target. So from a processed sweet corn perspective, these are the kind of outputs we're trying to do. So either cut up cobs or loose kernel type options and the likes. And if we jump to the next one, Ash. From a fresh perspective, this is what what a lot of people will be familiar with. You know, the old sweet corn that's available. So whether it be in a husk or outside of a husk or in a plastic bag or whatever it might be, it's that end end product that we're trying to grow to a high quality to ensure that people can enjoy a nice bit of sweet corn for as many months of the year as possible. So if we jump to the next one, Ash. So with this change in consumer, basically comes a change in tolerance to pest presence, right? So fall armyworm, when it is known to this is where we start to have crossover between, say, fall armyworm and things like Helicoverpa or cornea worm, because they can both target the cob. So Helicoverpa will come in from the top of the cob. Fall armyworm, it can, and it's also known to come in from the side of the cob. So obviously that direct impact to that cob makes it an unmarketable product, particularly from a fresh perspective. If it comes in at the top from a process grower side of things, we do have the ability to cut the tip of the sweet corn off, but from a fresh vegetable perspective, it's really hard to not have to grade that kind of quality sweet corn out. So the damage that fall armyworm can do from a establishing growing plant is a direct impact on yield. This later season cob infestation is a direct impact on quality of our product. So if we jump to the next one, Ash. So as a maize or sweet corn crop kind of grows, that risk of that early infection is the same, right? That ability for fall armyworm to get into that whorl and to eat that growing tip out, basically killing that plant. That's a risk that we all deal with. Trying not to oversimplify this, and hopefully not doing any disservice to the maize industry here, but as that crop gets larger, the amount of biomass produced is larger. The risk of a later infection, the risk to the total crop isn't as severe, because that caterpillar has to do a lot of damage in a very short space of time to cause economic impact. But obviously, fall armyworm and its marching ability does have that ability. When it comes to fresh sweet corn, that risk never drops because of that impact to the cobs. Because of that direct impact to quality of product, our risk for fall armyworm management never actually decreases. So for us, that ability to monitor, to utilize IPM and control options never diminishes. So jump to the next one, Ash. There we go. So in terms of control options are the same for sweet corn and maize growers, but we're pretty limited. So we have Sparta that is registered as an option, and we have a maximum of 4 applications. But if we're trying to manage that risk through the length of a sweet corn crop, it really doesn't give us enough options to create a robust program. Doesn't allow us to lean in fully to integrated pest management, and definitely doesn't give us options for rotation for resistance management guidelines. So this year we had a sweet corn crop on our demonstration farm. It was actually for a project looking at green vegetable bug, but because of the timing, we were definitely impacted by fall armyworm. So you can see the monitoring results that we had throughout the course of the crop through that line graph there. The little stars indicate when we were in over the thresholds that are available on the fallarmyworm.nz website. So you can see we had multiple occasions we were over that threshold. Our beneficial insects weren't keeping up with it, so we actually had to use an array of different insecticide options to try and keep on top of it. And that's the kind of thing that we need to be able to have access to, is a wide range of options to allow for that rotation to get on top of any resistance development occurring, while also allowing effective control of the pest and deliver a high quality product at the end of it. So yeah, that's a bit of a sweet corn perspective. I think that's basically the last one, Ash. So yeah, thank you very much for having me along.
Okay, I'm back. Thanks, Daniel. Yeah, and for clarifying that issue of the sweet corn growers, that it really is a problem pest, no matter what stage of the plant life cycle or growth cycle it appears in. Okay, so next up we have Mark Dunham from Northland Seed and Supplies. Now, Mark's an agronomist up in Northland. He's been involved with the fall army incursion again from day one, and in a region that really has taken the brunt of that incursion as well. So he has lots of experience of dealing with and working with growers who have been dealing with fall armyworm, and he's going to be telling us a little bit about that. Well, over to you, Mark.
Thank you. Yeah. So I'm going to share, like Anna said, from agronomist perspective, where we've come from, I guess, from those early days from incursion in 2022. Next slide. Thank you, Ash. So we're a business up in Northland. We're a seed and ag chem retailer specialising in crop and pasture agronomy. Maize is our single biggest crop type. The end use going into majority into dairy farmers for maize silage. Our spread is between Warkworth and Pukenui. Our customer spread, Pukenui's north of Kaitaia or Awanui in the far north. My area is Whangarei, far north. My colleagues is south. So as a business, we have as part of the margin that we make on seed, we provide a service for that, and that's our point of difference. And we provide a crop service, these checks as part of that, and we average probably 5 to 6. When I did my counts and what we normally do, it's around that number. That has increased from probably 3 or 4 crop checks previous to when fall armyworm came in. So we've certainly seen an increase. Next slide. Next slide, please, Ash. Thank you. Yeah, so Northland obviously is out of all of New Zealand is a nice warm climate, the warmest climate. So yeah, the chances are we were going to see fall armyworm more than other parts of New Zealand. So my first finding was in January 2022. It was, I was checking these crops and there's some unusual feeding habits going on. Like I've seen a lot of maize being eaten from cosmopolitan and corn earworm, and this damage was more centered to the whorl and very destructive, and couldn't pinpoint it. I showed some photo to supplier reps and they couldn't really explain what it was. Some said it was cosmopolitan, some was not fall armyworm, corn earworm. And I think there was various different caterpillars in that crop at that stage, but there was fall armyworm in there on hindsight. So we sprayed one crop in Hikurangi and one up in the far north. One got a synthetic pyrethroid organophosphate mix and the other one got a organophosphate only spray. We went back a couple of weeks later. One crop, actually the farmer phoned me and said, "Hey, there's still heaps of caterpillars in the middle of these plants. What's going on?" So we were real confused at that stage. There were other growers in the area, especially in the far north, trying different chemical brews and having similar issues. It was around that stage that the media released that there was fall armyworm in the country. Next slide, thanks, Ash. So that was kind of the end of that season. There wasn't too many others that I was aware of in that end of 22 growing season. But through that winter period, media got hold of what was going on and tried to make a bit of a story around it, and mainly it was negative really, and what destruction could happen. So you can see some of those headlines on the right. That was just in Northland. Personally, I felt, and some of my growers also felt like we're moving pretty slowly. Like there's identified that was kind of likely to come in fall armyworm. Why weren't there things in place? Why couldn't we get chemical registrations faster? I think some of us know why that is, but yeah, just everything felt pretty slow, and it was pretty hard work, and it created a bit of angst going into the 22-23 season. Next slide. So that first full season, 22-23, we started to see small clusters. Like we're really on the ball in terms of crop monitoring. Everyone was anxious, and it was maybe a dozen infested plants. Then you'd walk 50, 100 meters, and you'd find another cluster. So it wasn't very widespread, but some people were spraying because they're really nervous, even though the thresholds were well below. There's still SBs being used. People really still didn't believe that you couldn't use them. We found some variability in control. Sometimes you'd get control, especially if the caterpillars were really small in those first or second instar stages. We were anxiously waiting for that Sparta to come on label, and that happened 2 days before Christmas. And then heading into January, there's a little bit of Sparta used, but there's also lots of crops that didn't have anything done to them. And that period coincided with the Auckland anniversary floods and the Gabrielle storm event, which was late Jan and mid-Feb. And at that stage, like caterpillar numbers really declined in the field, and we're wondering what was going on. Like, was it the weather event, or was it the beneficials? Because there was a bit of Cortesia starting to arrive. So we're questioning what was going on. Next slide. In those following years, we kind of identified some of the key risk areas in our region and our growers. The key things out of this list are like the late plantings were really at risk. So like a December plantings, crops have poor health. I think it's only anecdotal, but there seemed to be more yield effect on poorer crops rather than healthier crops. So warmer sites, peat soils that are warm, sheltered sites and behind bamboo, and sweet corn zones like the far north, because we're getting increased populations. They're there earlier, and just sheer numbers around that sweet corn, we seem to get more maize hit. The plant stage seemed to have an impact. So when it was in a really leafy stage or silk emergence, it seemed to be the two key times. And if you had a flight overlap with those timings of the maize, you seem to be more of a target. Next slide, thanks, Ash. So then the question came in: do we spray or not? As we're walking through these crops with farmers, it was really hard to ignore the visual impact. It was even at 5-10%. It was really quite scary, the look of the maize, because you're getting that wheel feeding early on, and your eye gets drawn to that damage. The question I suppose I have always had, and I need to relay to my growers, is when's the right time to spray? Where's that economic threshold? Maize is traditionally done without a huge amount of inputs, I suppose. So yeah, to spend $200-300 more, really need to see a return, and working through with farmers on that was challenging. Really governed by the thresholds that were given to us, and I've still got some questions around how that relevance is, particularly to maize growers and individually. So like they might be spraying over a crop anyway, the fungicide or insecticide, and is that threshold still relevant, say, in that situation? What will the natural predators do if we don't spray, or if we do, will they get taken out, or was that more a negative effect than not spraying at all? Or their weather, what's the weather going to do? What effect is that going to have? What about the other pests in the crop? What are we actually spraying for? Like and it is quite hard to identify the damage at times. Like Ash said, you've got to be quite destructive at times. And if you've got other pests in, even more so, you've really got to destruct and get right down into the middle of the plant, that small part of the wheel, and dissect these plants, and if you've got multiple insects in there, you've got to do a lot of scouting and work through that. What I did find out was that Sparta works as long as you do it at the right time and got the right coverage. Next slide, thanks, Ash. We're probably more industry future risks, a little bit of business, but future risks is Sparta being the only registered chemical and only group available to us. The likelihood of resistance is pretty high. We've seen organophosphates or chlorpyrifos exit out of the market in recent times, or in that period of exiting, and that was widely used and has been widely used for other caterpillars. So if we don't have that, then chances are that Sparta is going to be used as default. They're going to be, say, they're chasing fall armyworm, but cosmopolitan is going to be an effect. So yeah, the beneficial insect effect. What effect does that insecticide have on those beneficials? We are hearing that Sparta does actually kill quite a few of the beneficials. So that's, yeah, is there something else out there that's going to be kinder, and can we get that soon? So as an industry, I feel like if we have a breakout year, we have maybe a really wet winter, a warm winter, but then a late wet, so like a September, October, November wet. Yeah, there's potential for December plantings and a really high overwintering, and that's going to be a risk year. Are there enough agronomists and people out there, farmers checking their crops to alert the relevant people that they need to take action and do something about these crops? Next slide, thanks, Ash. So yeah, in terms of where I gathered my information in those early days, a lot of overseas data is where I looked online. A lot of phone time, people like Ivan and Ash and Jenny, just trying to talk over things and just get a perspective from other people and try to come up with a good solution. I wish I had the website back then, because it would have saved a hell of a lot of time and made my job a lot easier. It's going to take away all the outside noise and the crap that's out there. You can see stuff that's true to our regions and true to what we're dealing with as a country and a region. So for new agronomists particularly, I think that's where you're going to start. Growers that are interested in fall armyworm, definitely the website's going to be really handy. For me, this first stage of the website's probably stuff I've already learned, but yeah, in terms of going forward, there could be some useful stuff as a established agronomist, I suppose, around potential predicted modelling. Can we see what the future looks like in terms of like the different stages of caterpillar, how long it's going to take to go through stages and through cycles, so that we can be more efficient in the field and know where to be places at the right time. Next slide, thanks, Ash. So yeah, just in conclusion, a steep learning curve for me and our business. Still a lot to be learned around the insecticides and the beneficials. Website, I couldn't speak highly enough in terms of a go-to for people interested, and keep looking at it and sign up so that you do see those next stages coming through. Personally, my concern is largely gone. I feel like we can manage it a lot better now. Industry support is well aligned now, and I've got plenty of people I can turn to help me through situations. Thank you.
Thanks, Mark. I think one of the things that Mark raised there is something that gets forgotten sometimes, which is actually the human cost and the human impact versus the crop impact. And he talked a lot about that feeling of a slow response, when in fact there was a lot of work going on. It's just the answers aren't there immediately. And So that's where the website comes in now. It's got that information. It's got the idea to help you identify whether it's fall armyworm, and if it's not, what else it might be. It can explain where the damage is. And information is really the key to removing that anxiety, because if you know what a problem is, then you can move forward. So I think that's a really key benefit, and that's what the website was set up for. The other thing he talked about there was that there are still a lot of questions, and absolutely there are. Initially, when there's not a pest in the country, we can only rely on information that's coming from overseas. But the work is ongoing now, and that's why there's a huge effort going into collecting New Zealand data. I believe there's a PhD underway looking at the role of beneficials and potentially how they can be of use going into the future, or just understanding how they work and how we can maximise the benefit of them. That's the end of all the formal presentations. Nobody has asked a question, and there have been 62 of us here. So does anybody have a question now, or have we all learned what we want to learn?
Couple of comments. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
It's Graham
Yeah.
Walker here.
Hi, Graham.
Not so much questions, but hopefully a couple of comments. In a practical way, controlling fall armyworm in the north of New Zealand, the key is normally it's a cohort. So a crop is going to have one flight in. Maybe gets a late one, but that's probably not. So every crop, whether it's planted early or later, or the late crops, they could get overlapping. But mainly you're just going to get a flight in, and one major risk of a generation of fall armyworm. So as long as you scout once a week, once you know it's got warm enough in your crop, literally take you 5 minutes, you will know if and when you get a few egg masses laid, and then you've got 2 weeks to decide, while the caterpillars are small and on the leaves, to spray or not. But as long as you have a quick look in your crop, that's all you got to do. So it's actually quite simple and easy to do. And the only question is, do I spray before they get big, because then it's too late? So if you scout, so you don't need pheromone traps or anything else, it's just understanding the risk. And that mainly comes, I don't talk about action thresholds anymore around the world. I talk about the experience threshold, and that is the farmer and the grower and the agronomist understanding what happens in their crop over time. So I think, the threat is just one threat for that crop. Obviously, grow early. The only other thing I'd like to say is I really take a bit of an issue with the fact that it's got 200 and 300 hosts. It will feed on anything to stay alive and finish itself off. But I'm now into my 7th year of looking at fall armyworm in Cambodia, Thailand, Philippines, and just started in Fiji. And all I do is scout crops, and I look at caterpillars and I collect them and I rear out parasitoids. So in 6 years of walking crops in Southeast Asia, I have never found fall armyworm in any crop except maize and corn. I'm talking vegetables here. So I just want to say that, the other vegetable growers shouldn't have a great worry about fall armyworm. If they grow brassicas, they got another 7 caterpillars, another 7 species. But that's about all I want to say. I just, if there's corn and maize, don't worry about looking at anything else. Your problem is corn and maize. Scout regularly and decide whether you need to spray before they get too big, before they become 4th instar and move into the middle. The only other thing I'd say about the insecticides is, come on, Viago. I like Daniel's insecticides. BT works. They spray 2 or 3 times a week in Cambodia and get some control of fall armyworm, the BT. But imamectin benzoate and chlorantraniliprole, the other 2, they are really IPM compatible, so they are compatible with your parasitoids. Unfortunately, I believe Sparta is not compatible. In fact, nor is Viago. They're not great, but they're certainly better than SPs or OPs. And I'll stop there. Thank you.
Thanks, Graham. We do actually have one more question. So this is Graham Walker, who's and with him is Francis McDonald, and they're from Plant and Food and they're sitting at their Mount Albert campus. We have a question around resistance, about fall armyworm resistance to chemicals overseas, and how that might play out here. Can you just give us a very brief update on what we can expect around resistance and fall armyworm?
Question for me.
Yeah.
What we're going to do, of course, is actually assess the population that we have. Now, Molecular might be able to help to tell us where the fall armyworm we have came from. And where they came from, then if it's from Australia, they should have data on levels of resistance. So that's the quickest way of us knowing. Otherwise, we need to assess it ourselves with the populations we have, which we can do. But the best news, the wonders of molecular and genetics, if we know where the fall armyworm came from, and it's from Australia, then they've got a lot of data on resistance in Australian populations. So that would be a reliable information.
So we are collecting samples from pretty much anywhere I go and linking in with a lot of those people around the country, especially those monitoring traps. Maybe some of those new moths are fly-ins if it correlates with some weather patterns from Australia. That could be quite interesting, but definitely collecting a lot of those insects and providing them to BSI so they can do that genetics. There's some really good collaboration going on in that space, so hopefully we can get some answers going forward. Okay.
I have another question here, and I'm not sure, possibly it's for Nick. It's about the correlation between what we're catching in traps and how that plays out to damage in the field. So,
are you there, Nick?
See, Andy.
Yeah, I'm here. That's
Hi, Nick. Are you able to
question, though. I can try, but if Scott's here, that would be better.
Okay, Scott. Scott Hardwick, are you here?
Looks like it's you, Nick.
Looks like it's you, Nick.
Sorry, do you mind asking that again?
So it's a question around how the correlation between the numbers of moths being caught in traps and the damage in the field. Like, are they providing good predictive data?
Oh no, sorry, I'm really not a good person to try and answer that.
Yeah, I think that could possibly be well, I wouldn't know the answer to that. I guess, Nick, some of the work that we've been doing behind the scenes as part of the modelling that you've been producing, so the phenological modelling and some of that predictive tool that we might have mentioned throughout this presentation. We have used some of these smart traps. Again, they're not an answer to the problems going on in the paddock, but the information we're receiving is been really, really useful. I can get daily updates on those moth flights. So every time we do get moths, we can make some predictions, and some of the tools that Nick has been producing, it's been really, really useful. It's probably been quite good for me to apply that to some fringe areas like Gisborne or Tasman, or even the West Coast, where we do maybe just have that one generation that's quite easy to identify. And we can punch in some of that information and then see what's happening in the paddock next door. I think I saw Jenny Dimmock's hand go up there as well. Jenny has been monitoring 6 different sites up in or around Kaitaia, and she's going into those paddocks every time as well. Jenny, are you there and want to answer to this as well?
I was going to say that I don't think we do know the correlation between the trap catches that we're having and the degree of damage, but we have a good indication of the timing. So our first moth flight is mid-November-ish, and then we get the first of the damage, and then we get our second generation sometime towards the end of December, early January, and then we get the next lot. So it's giving us a good indication of timing, but I'm not sure about the damage intensity correlating.
So what I wanted to add in there is coming back to the website. That's where those regional updates that are on the website are key, because if they'll be giving you updates on what the flights are in your region, and from that they're able to predict when problems are likely to occur.
But
I'll just quickly say, I think that the trapping just doesn't work well enough that you can go, well, we have X number of moths, therefore we'll get Y amount of damage and it will be worth this much dollars. But I think that a better way of looking at that is just with the trapping, we can see kind of where our generations are, and each generation gets worse. So if you're in Northland and you've had a really bad year and you're up to the 4th generation and you planted in January, you've probably got an issue. But it's probably better just to look at the generations. I think Graham probably
we see this in trapping for a range
someone
of
else
crops.
coming in here. That was Nick. Who else is coming in now?
Daniel.
Daniel, you had your hand up. Yeah.
Yeah, just like, and it's across the board for trapping in a range of crops, right? There's almost, broadly sweeping, there's not really a correlation between what you're seeing in the trap and what you see in terms of damage in the crop. The trapping's only an indication of activity in the wider environment, right? To Graham's point, nothing beats the in-field scouting. That's the decision making. That's the data you need to make decisions on how you manage that crop forward. The trapping just gives you a picture of what's active in that area.
We're over time, so I'm actually going to call this to a close now, and I'm going to summarise firstly by thanking Daniel and Mark and Ash for their presentations, and just a quick reminder that we were here today to understand more about how the website works and what information it can provide you. So I think it's pretty clear from Ash's tour and from the feedback that we've had from Daniel and Mark that www.fallarmyworm.nz is the place to go for information on fall armyworm, whether that's identification for the pest or the damage, whether it's to get those regular regional updates and understand what the threats are and try and predict what might be likely to happen going forward, understanding those damage thresholds and whether or not action is likely to be required, and then, of course, what that management option, what options are available. So I think then the other key thing was Ash's call for feedback, please, like what do you like about the website? What's good? What's bad? What's missing? Because it's been built to help the maize and sweet corn community. So if there's information that's not on there, the team really want to know. And I'll just hand over to Ash for the last farewell.
Thank you very much. Yeah, please, like Anna said, please give us feedback. Our next steps, phase 2, we do want your direction. You know, we don't want to go down a rabbit hole if it's not going to be a usable tool. But we do have some of the modeling that we might have mentioned with Nick, and some of that kind of decision-making aspects that we could develop a little bit further. But yeah, if that's going to be useful, if you would like to see some other things, some risk, maybe like traffic light system in different regions, anything like that, just please let us know. It's really useful. And get out in your paddocks and do that crop scouting. It's very important. Don't rely on the pheromone trapping data that we might put up. It is just that indication. And please, if you do find things in your paddock, just let us know. Just a little heads up. You know, that communication between growers and advisors, agronomists and researchers is vital to keep this going forwards and be able to manage it successfully. So thank you, everyone. It was good fun. See you next time, hopefully.